Welcome, Superfriends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Josh Stapleton.
Heyo!
We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 123. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Josh, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while. How are you, my brother?
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. I am doing well. Thanks for having me.
So what's going on in your life, man? What's new for you this week or the last little while for our super friends that don't talk to you like every day?
Well, probably, I think since the last time I've been on the podcast, but I don't know. I am now a stay-at-home dad for the time being. I say for the time being, I'm working on getting back into the job field. I quit my job about 10 months ago now, and I don't know if I've been on the podcast in the last 10 months or not. Maybe I have, Maybe I haven't. I don't know. So right now I have the kids home for spring break. So that's I'd say kind of fun, but it's really kind of hectic. This last little period of being home with the kids and running the errands has given me a new respect for all the stay-at-home moms, because I feel like I am busier than I've ever been, and I'm actually excited to get back to the daily grind at a job at this point.
So you're not just sitting around eating bonbons all day, watching soap operas?
Goodness, no. I've kind of become a crazy person where, last night at midnight I was folding laundry. So, I've always been that crazy person, but, just trying to get everything done.
So you're meaning to tell me that 1980s TV shows and movies have lied to me about what stay-at-home parents do?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they're full of crap. So,
man,
yeah,
I feel like my childhood's been betrayed.
Well,
again.
Call your mother and she'll set you straight.
Really? Is mom going to be the one to set us straight? Yeah. Huh. Okay, so what else is going on? Are you watching stuff? Are you playing stuff? Like, what are you doing right now?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I don't want to go too much in depth on what I'm watching because I'm going to save that for a later segment.
Okay.
But yeah, watching a few things on the TV, and as far as playing stuff, I've been playing some games with my oldest son, Andrew. We've been playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. We've been doing that for a upcoming Raising a Gamer episode on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And then I've also just finished Far Cry 5 last week, I believe. And now that I've finished that, I've jumped back into Octopath Traveler on the Nintendo Switch, which I put down last October when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. But that's kind of where I'm at with my gaming. And like I said, I'll talk about a little bit about what I'm watching later on, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, let me ask you a question about you and Drew doing Raising the Gamer. Now, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time, is that for one of the last ones in season 2, or is this like prepping ahead for season 3 of Raising the Gamer?
No, we're definitely getting near the end of season 2. I'd like to say that we have this strict layout of how many episodes and how the whole season is supposed to go, but we kind of, I don't want to say fly by the seat of our pants, because what we did before we started releasing season 2 is we already had about 10 episodes ready and recorded, mostly recorded. At least 10 games that we had played. We probably had eight or 9 episodes recorded. And the goal was to get between 12 to 16 episodes. And I want to say we're right now sitting around 10 or 12. I haven't checked in a little bit, but we're kind of at a point now where we're caught up with all the stuff that we'd already done, and we're recording stuff now that I'm going to be releasing within a month or so. So my guess is that season 2 is coming to a close soon, just because the logistics of putting out a video every 2 weeks, it might not sound really hard, but when you're doing it with an 11-year-old and you're trying to find time to actually play a game and not just like rush through it. I mean, some of these games we definitely spend way more time than others on. But we never just like sit down, play a game for half an hour and then make a video. We don't want to.
Well, and you also said like you're a full-time stay-at-home dad right now. You're looking for a job and you're taking classes and you're going to school.
Yeah, I do.
I know that.
I do schoolwork at night. So a lot of nights I'm doing schoolwork from about 9-10 o'clock till midnight. And then I try and do a lot of my job hunting while my youngest is napping. And I mean, I did back in December accept a job with the government, but that's kind of all up in the air now if they're going to get a contract that would actually allow me to take this job or not. But yeah, so it's been busy, and then the fact of the matter too is Andrew is needs to focus on his schooling, so we don't get as much gaming time when school is in the thick of things. But with this being spring break, I'm excited that we'll actually get to sit down and play a couple games and maybe make a couple videos too.
Nice. So lately I've been watching this YouTube series on the channel First We Feast. It's called Hot Ones. I'm sure you've seen it or you know about it, where
Nope.
Basically
never heard of it.
Well, there's so basically it's a host, and his name is Sean Ryan, something like. Anyway, this host who basically interviews like famous people, celebrities and whatnot. And as he interviews them, they eat 10 wings, chicken wings, and they progressively get hotter and hotter and hotter until they get like crazy hot at the end.
I've seen Married to the Games do their spin-off on that, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I think watching you and Andrew on like a Raising the Gamer do a Hot Ones challenge would be a lot of fun and really good internet video. Yeah, people would definitely enjoy our pain. My problem is and you know this, I hate spicy things. Like I don't get I don't get anything, not that I go to Taco Bell, but I don't get anything above the mild sauce there. And when people say to me, here, try something that's really spicy or hot, I hate it. It kind of just ruins the whole flavor for me if I taste is my mouth on fire. So yeah, I don't know. We wouldn't last very long. Plus, an 11-year-old, I don't think he would feel the pressure to stick it out. I think he would just run out of the room. Maybe. Still, that would be good, funny too. Yeah. I mean, as you know, like for years, I've stayed away from spicy stuff because I had acid reflux and just like that would tear me up. But since I've dropped a bunch of weight, like I haven't had acid reflux in almost a year and a half now, and so I've ventured out and had some spicier things. I like getting stuff that's got flavor and is spicy, but doesn't like make my whole mouth feel like everything's burning and on fire. That I don't care for. I was on a trip back to Michigan for work back in November, and I ordered some like what I thought were just like barbecue wings. But oh my gosh, I think they're the hottest thing I've ever put in my mouth. I ate like the one wing and like instantly my mouth was just drooling. My nose and my sinuses were draining. I'm like, what is this? This should just be barbecue. And I thought, well, maybe this one was like mixed with something else. Let me try a second one. And so I tried this second one, and oh my gosh, like I was like everything on my face was just like liquids were coming out of it. And so I literally called down to the front desk and I was like, can you please, like as I'm trying not to drool, right? Because I'm like over this container like drooling, like, can you please send me a pineapple pizza with some ham on it? And like I paid for like a pizza just so I could get some bread in me and some like other things like some cheese, because I had nothing in the room. It was like my first night there. Oh, it was miserable.
Yeah, that's something I've never understood. And I mean, I get the whole like making something for a video that's entertaining. For us, where we get 30, maybe 40 views on a good video, I'm like, that's not worth 2-3 days of pain.
A couple hours. I don't think 2 or 3 days.
I don't know, but okay, sure. Either way.
I mean, we'll promote it here on this show, man.
Oh.
We'll bump you up to lots of views. No, so don't even say double. I was like lots, because it's very generic. All right, so I think it's a good idea. By the way,
I'll give it some thought.
Yeah, talk to Drew about it. See what he thinks. Yeah. Cool, Dad. Let's do it. And then he'll be 2 wings in, like,
I know.
I'm out.
I'd probably quit before he did.
Right. So as you know, it's spring break this week, like you said, and we've signed our kids up again for swimming lessons. And so tonight we went over to the Clearfield Aquatic Center for swimming lessons and realized swimming lessons don't actually start till next week because apparently, spring break.
So did they go swimming or did you just go home?
No, we just went home.
Okay.
Because we would have to pay for them. And when we take them to swimming lessons, we don't bring swimming suits or anything. So we just walked right in like we normally do for the swimming lessons. Got in there. I was like, I don't see the board. I don't see all the teachers. And I was like, guys, I don't think the thing. I'm like, let me go talk to someone. And came back. I was like, yeah, we don't have it. And so we have decided that we will take the kids over on Wednesday night, which would be their normal next swimming lesson night. And we'll just pay to take them in and let them kind of play at the pool and swim. And then we'll take them again on Saturday so that we at least go twice during the week. But it was one of those things where I was like, something's wrong. And I probably should have looked at the calendar closer.
Huh.
So,
yeah. So you kind of played an April Fool's joke on yourself there.
Kinda.
Now, is there... I'm trying to remember if it was Charlie or Jackson. I want to say it was Jackson that had the incident at the pool.
No, that was Charlie.
Was it Charlie?
that was Charlie.
Does he have a picture?
Yeah.
Is there somewhere back in the office where his picture's up on a wall saying,
No.
keep this kid out of the water?
And so, okay, you say incident. Realistically, he burped, he took in a bunch of water and he burped up something that literally looked like a small, little, tiny, thin, wafer of bread. And he'd had a McDonald's hamburger that night. But since it came out of his mouth and it was probably something stuck in his teeth or whatever, they're like, yeah, that kid just vomited. And Charlie's like, no. And they're like, yeah, that kid just vomited. Everyone out of the pool. It's they made everyone get out of the pool and go to the other pool in the place. And then Charlie kept saying, Daddy, I vomited. Daddy, I vomited. I'm like, stop saying that. I'm like, people can hear you. Shh, shh. I'm like, you don't want to be that kid that people point to that's the kid that vomited. And as a parent, you don't want to be like, yeah, I'm the parent of the kid that vomited. But even though it wasn't it wasn't a full on getting sick anyway.
Yeah.
No swimming tonight. I am playing Kingdom Hearts still. We are deep into that. I'm deep into the game. I probably have another 2-3 hours and I can beat the game.
Are you playing, is it a remastered version?
Yeah, it's the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 remix. It's the remastered HD version on the PS4. But I'm playing it with Burita and the boys because they've never seen the game all the way through. The problem is I've decided I want to try for the platinum on this game, which is very involved, collecting all the collectibles and doing all the optional bosses and getting, all the like I said, all the collectibles, all the optional bosses. You also have to go through a bunch of these tournaments and fight, and you have to do them solo and then time trials. And there's just a lot of things to do. You have to do a speed run and beat the game in under 15 hours. You also have to do a playthrough of the game where you don't change your weapons. So it's an RPG action type of game. So as you play,
is it a minimum 2-3 playthroughs?
I think I can do it a minimum of 2. I think I can do it a minimum of 2.
Speed run it without changing weapons, right? Is that kind of how you'd have to plan it out?
So there is a way you can, because there's a kind of a little glitch on the speed run thing where originally on the PS2 game, when it didn't have trophies, it counted up to 15 hours and that was in green. And then after 15 hours, your timer goes to blue. Or no, sorry, your timer stays, something like that. Anyway, when you get to 100 hours, your timer resets back down to 0 and it changes colors back to green. So you would know, oh, hey, I've played it for over 100 hours. However, when they did the trophy system, because of the way the colors change it, they based on like if it's green or blue. So if you play over 100 hours and then defeat the game, it counts as a speedrun because you're within the 115 hour range. So I'm trying to do all the collectibles on the hardest mode possible because all the difficulty levels stack. I'm trying to play it on the hardest possible mode right now, do all the collectibles, do all the side quests, do all the mini bosses and extra things now, and then defeat the game. I also have to level up to 100, and I'm like level 47 right now, and like I said, I'm probably 2-3 hours before the end of the game, and I fought a boss that is incredibly difficult, and especially on the difficult setting I've got it on, where I had to try it like 5 or 6 different times and like tweak a couple things, tweak my strategy just a little bit to beat it, so I don't have to go back and grind just for a few more levels. So I did that, and the kids are loving it, and they're watching it, but I'm going to get this playthrough done, and then when I start my second playthrough, I'm going to drop it to the easiest level, and I'm going to make it the one where you can't do any continues, so every time you die, you've got to load back from a save point, so it means you're going to have to save a lot, and I'm not going to be changing my weapon. And that'll be the last playthrough. So it'll take me 2 playthroughs. This first one's the big one, and then the second one should just be hey, let's get through this game as fast as we can. No continues, no changing of the weapon. So
I remember playing through the original Kingdom Hearts when it first came out, and I want to say that's when Steph and I were newlyweds, and we got really far into that game, but we never beat it. So I ended up watching the ending on YouTube years and years and years later. Yeah, that's sadly one I've never beat. And I thought about when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out a couple weeks back or whenever that was, I really thought about getting the collection and playing through them again.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's real likely that I'm going to go back and play them all.
So here's the thing. If you... Because, I mean, that's part of the reason I've got the collection, too, is that I want to at least play the 2 main games before I play 3, and the kids want to watch it. So if they're interested and they sit quietly, which they have been mostly, I'm down to playing through it because I loved those games. I don't know if I'll play all the additional little games that they had out that, came out for the Game Boy or, some of the other stuff, what I call the supplemental games. I don't know about that, but I definitely want to play the 2 big ones. So I'm enjoying it, and then we'll get Kingdom Hearts 3 and we'll play that once we're done with these 2. But it's one of my favorites. I love it. Yeah. Tons of nostalgia there.
Yeah, and I definitely too like the idea that it's something that we could play with the family, and it has the Disney ties, and I think Steph would enjoy it, and she's not really much of a gamer. We have been, though, playing a lot of Overcooked 2, and she really likes that one, so I'm kind of looking for what's the next, once we get through this, what's the next kind of family game? Yeah, family game that I can get her to play, because it's one that she actually comes to me and says, hey, let's play Overcooked, or, why haven't we played Overcooked in a while?
I will say, even if you're not trying to do a speed run of Kingdom Hearts, if you were playing on one of the easier modes, just to kind of play it, and so the kids could watch it and whatnot, you could probably get through that game in, the speed run's under 15 hours. If you're skipping some of the worlds you don't necessarily need to go to, you could probably do it in under 15 hours on easy, or you could probably do it in about 20-25 hours if you hit all the worlds and you kind of do all the big kind of story beats and don't do all the little collectibles. So it's not too bad. Other than that, man, I'm watching Frasier on Netflix, still kind of grinding on that a little bit. We're going back and watch Life in Pieces, the 3rd season. That's kind of been Brita and I's show we're kind of catching up on. And then there's some other stuff on the horizon that I'm getting ready to watch, but I'm kind of waiting for the 2nd season to be completely done before I get to that. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on in my world right now. What do you say, Josh? Should we do what we do and kill some of those Bothans?
Let's do what we do.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Josh, we've killed Bothans. We are now into Rebel Intelligence. What do you have for me this week?
All right. Well, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is this partnership between Twitch and Nintendo. So,
yeah,
most people probably know what Twitch is, or at least somewhat familiar with it. But it's a streaming service that's kind of become a big competitor to YouTube, as far as for people to go and watch people play games. And Twitch, if you have a Amazon Prime membership, they've already in the past done deals where you can, for example, give a free Prime sub to someone. So say you have a favorite streamer, you can, for no money out of your wallet, if you're a Twitch Prime subscriber, that's hard to say, you can give them $5 a month. That's one of the perks. So that's
say that 5 times fast.
Goodness. That's one of the perks. Yeah, you're gonna get me going back to speech therapy, which I haven't done since 6th grade. Twitch Prime
subscriber, Twitch Prime subscriber, Twitch Prime subscriber, Twitch Prime subscriber, Twitch Prime subscriber, Twitch Prime subscriber. Boo freaking yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, if you have a Twitch Prime account, you can get a free year of Nintendo Online, which Nintendo Online is already dirt cheap. It's $20 for an individual for a year, and I want to say it's like 30 or 32 if you want to get the family plan. But the way that this works is you link your Amazon account with your Nintendo account, and they will give you 3 months free. And then I believe it's after you're 2 months into that 3 months, you can go back in and tack on an additional 9 months. It doesn't work, like I said, it doesn't work on the family plan, but it will work if you have the individual plan. So that's pretty nice. And if you've already had the Twitch, or if you already have, Nintendo Online like I do, it'll just stack it.
So I thought the 3-month, 9-month thing was a little bit weird.
It is.
Until I realized what they're trying to do is make sure people don't just sign up for Prime and get their year and then cancel Prime within I don't know, a week or something where you can cancel if you don't like it. So that way you've actually got to be a Prime member for at least over 3 months, which is basically means you're going to be locked in for a year.
Right.
So, I mean, that kind of makes sense, but, I get it, right? People try to game the system as much as you can. I like this. I think it's a cool idea. I have not paid for the Nintendo Online service yet, just because I haven't been playing my Switch as much as I'd like to.
Right.
And with me in the middle of this Kingdom Hearts run right now, I'm probably not going to be in it for a little while, even though I really want to start playing Final Fantasy IX that I downloaded on the Switch. But I mean, I can get this. I can get it for free because I'm an Amazon Prime member.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I was a little bit hesitant to first sign up for Nintendo Online, not because the price point, $20 is a lot better than Xbox or PlayStation, but my thing was I already have Xbox Gold account, and I already have PlayStation Plus, and so it's kind of just one of those things. It's like, do I really want to be paying for 3 of these online accounts? And I think Nintendo's a good deal. I really love games like Splatoon, and that's one that you need to have the account to play it. I like retro games, but I haven't really given any playtime to any of the old NES games on there. I like the fact that they're there. I like the fact that I could go and dink around with them. But to me, it's just more $20 so I can keep playing the online stuff.
Yeah. No, that's a good deal. I mean, I definitely say that if you're not an Amazon Prime member already, you should anyway, just for the free shipping. If you ever order off of Amazon Prime, quite a bit. But definitely, the fact you get bundled in the Prime Video, and now you can get this. I mean, it's just kind of a no-brainer. It's good value add. I love that. Like that. Right. I love that. That's a good partnership. All right, Josh. So last week I talked a little bit about Toy Story 4, right? Because they released that new trailer for Toy Story 4. And one of the things I thought was really interesting is that Don Rickles, who is Mr. Potato Head, died in I think 2017.
Yep.
And he died before he had a chance to record anything for this. But Don Rickles' family came to the people that are making Toy Story 4, to the director, and they said, is there any way that you can use previously recorded audio of him that you could, somehow, get a performance out of that for him? And sometimes I know in movies when Carrie Fisher died, they decided hey, we wanted to, use some footage that's going to be in this upcoming movie. And they go and they approach the family to ask for permission, even though they own rights to the likenesses and previous performances, and they could clip stuff in. It's kind of a, hey, we want to do the right thing, because if they really don't want that, we'll find a way to work around it. But in this case, Don Rickles' family approached the people making Toy Story 4 and said, hey, can you do this? We think that would be a really kind of fitting homage to, the late comedian's work and his work in the series. And so the director, Josh Cooley, while talking to Entertainment Weekly, said that they not only used footage, audio from the first 3 films, they also used audio from video games, theme parks, and audio that never made it into the movies. And they used that and put it all together to craft a whole new performance for Don Rickles' character, Mr. Potato Head, in this. I love this. I love this.
Did they give any indication of how big of a part? Because I would have to guess that Mr. Potato Head probably just has a small role in this if they're splicing audio together.
I don't know. I don't know how big of a role he will have or not. That didn't, that wasn't really there. I think a lot of this movie is really going to be focused on Woody,
right?
And kind of, his journey. So I think it'll be like some of the other ones where, Woody and Buzz are kind of the main thrust of the films, and everyone else has got lines and they get some time, but they're not the major star. So I think he'll probably have just as much screen time as any of the other movies he's ever had. And honestly, with technology where it is now, if they have enough samples of him, they can do some pretty amazing things in the booth to craft all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that now that I know about it, when I see the movie, I'm going to be listening in to see okay, does any of this sound a little bit off, or is it totally seamless? And it also just raises a lot of questions. I would love to be, a fly on the wall when they're having the discussions, maybe before his family approach and say, do we write out the character? Do we get a new voice actor? How do we approach this? And then also another thing it's kind of random, but I was wondering, do they pay his family? I mean, they already own the rights to those.
Yeah, and they're using existing stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, just be kind of interesting to hear a little more of the story. But yeah, interesting. Good stuff.
Cool. Yeah, cool. All right, Josh, what else you got?
Okay, so the other thing that I have is that there is a new trailer for the Godzilla King of Monsters. And it looks really impressive. I loved the previous Godzilla movie. I thought it was really well done, and I did not know that they were making a new movie. So this was, all new to me. And then I watched the trailer, and sure enough, 11, I can't think of what her real name is, but
Millie Bobby Brown.
Millie Bobby Brown. Yes, that's right. Who, by the way, who names their girl Millie Bobby Brown? I mean, are they big fans?
Yeah.
Or
I don't know.
Family name maybe? I don't know. But anyways, Godzilla is coming back, and it's gonna kind of kickstart the summer blockbusters because it's coming out May 31st. So kind of right in that window where we're gonna get all those good popcorn movies. And this kind of looks like it's just another one of those. I don't think you're gonna be expecting anything with a really deep storyline or plot, but it's gonna be a lot of things blowing up.
Yeah, in the past, I've never really been a big fan of the Godzilla movies. I mean, I've seen the clips here and there of the original ones from way back in the day, and I was always like, okay, yeah, It's a guy in a suit on a miniature set, crushing and killing everything. A bunch of Japanese people running around scared. Never really like super enthused about it. I do remember seeing the Godzilla movie that came out like maybe around like 1998 that had like Matthew Broderick in it, and they took Kashmir by Led Zeppelin and P. Diddy rapped over it. And I remember thinking that movie to me kind of felt like hot garbage.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
And I didn't care for it. So when this last Godzilla movie came out, I also got to say that I saw the King Kong that Peter Jackson redid, and while visually it is a spectacular, scenery, type of thing, like, visually it's just amazing. I didn't care for that movie very much. I kind of thought it was just kind of whatever.
Right.
So when Godzilla came out, I went, yeah, another monster, a kaiju movie. I'm not into this. So I skipped it. I didn't see it at all. And a while back when Stu was on the podcast, we talked about this whole, Godzilla King of Monsters. And I went, I don't want to see this. And he's like, no, you're going to go. I'm going to take you to this. Now that I've actually seen the trailer, I actually really kind of do want to go see this thing because it looks way freaking cool. So that means I need to go see the newest one, the kind of the reboot of the Godzilla.
Yeah, I went into the 2014 one. I believe it's 2014. I went into that Godzilla movie with pretty low expectations and actually came out liking it a lot. So, once again, not the greatest story or anything. And yes, it is Godzilla, but it's just really well done. So I'm excited. This is one I'll want to see in theaters.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe we'll go do it together. That'd be fun. So yeah, Godzilla King of Monsters. It's one that I was totally against. Now that I've seen a trailer, I'm kind of hyped for this thing, and so I've done a 180 on this. I was about to say I did a 360, but that wouldn't make any sense. No. Okay, so as you know, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. The Game of Thrones is getting ready to come back here in just a little bit to HBO for its final season. This show is everything you want in kind of a fantasy show. If you're a fan of the books, you enjoy it for a lot of reasons. If you've never read the books, there's still tons to be enjoyed there. Here's what's interesting, though. The show is pretty brutal in the ways that it depicts battles and war, in the way it depicts, some like one-on-one combat fights, champion versus champion, to the death. It can be very brutal, very bloody. And so, interesting enough, there's been lots of news stories going around right now because the final season's getting ready to come and hit the airwaves again. But this one news article cracked me up more than any other. So, talking about how like legendary these big battles are and whatnot, apparently there's a safe word that they have on set. They had to figure out some sort of a word that they could use that would not be in normal context for this time period. And the stunt people know it, and the main actors know it. And basically, you only hear people call this out because, someone's in serious trouble, right? And apparently the word is banana.
So they're supposed to say like banana if they're actually hurt?
Yes. So basically, like when they're filmed, because what happens is they film these huge fight scenes where there's supposed to be like dead bodies, like people like taking swords, to the gut or to the head or whatever, and like, big battles and maces, and then they fall down. But if they really get hurt, they don't want them just lying there looking like someone about to be a corpse if they're about to be a corpse themselves and they're actually really injured. So they said like, there'll be like carnage and wreckage everywhere, and then all of a sudden you hear banana, and like everything stops, everything shuts down. That's the safe word. And then they figure out like who's in real distress, who's in real trouble, what's going on, if some sort of rigging didn't work right, and potentially they could be massively hurt or whatever. But apparently though, the funny thing is like Kit Harington that plays Jon Snow on the show, he prefers not to use it. So even like, because he's been in some rough scenes, like these major battles, that apparently he takes a few lickings, even though he probably should, call like, hey, timeout, let's call Banana. Let's get my stunt double in here. That really hurt. I need a break. Apparently he doesn't like it and doesn't want to say it. So,
well, I mean, I guess there's something to be said about an actor wanting it to look authentic. But when you're going through this, I was thinking, why don't they just yell cut? I'm hurt, cut. But yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense to have a word if there's probably, like I said, heaps of bodies you could legitimately get hurt, fall down, and be in pain, and no one would know the difference. So yeah, I guess it makes sense.
So now I'm going to go back. Now I know this. I'm going to go back and like rewatch seasons and think like, I wonder during this scene if anyone yelled banana, because this is brutal and potential for lots of people to be hurt. Just, it's the little things sometimes that make me laugh. So now the safe word is banana.
There's always money in the banana stand.
Who's hurt? The stand's hurt? I don't get it. Gosh, the new season of Arrested Development dropped. Have you seen that yet?
No. Didn't it drop a while back though?
No. So they did a fourth season.
Yeah, they recut it
a while back, and then they recut it. But now there's a fifth season that just dropped.
I watched the recut fourth season, and okay. So backing up, the fourth season originally, I did not like at all.
Yeah,
and I know a lot of people kind of felt the same way. There were some that liked it, but overall, I really didn't like it. The recut fourth season, I loved. It felt like Arrested Development. I mean, it just was. I can't even describe it. It was totally different. I felt like I wasn't even watching the same season. But I thought they dropped the fifth season a while ago. But yeah, I have heard from others that
maybe just a couple weeks. But I'm saying like it's fairly new.
Okay.
So I haven't watched the recut fourth season. I saw the original one they released, and I remember thinking the same thing, like the way they had to film it and everything because the actors' schedules and whatnot. It didn't hit me right. But I'm going to have to go back and watch it. Anyway.
My only gripe, and this is very minor about the recut fourth season, is there's a couple scenes where you can tell they went back and they redid the scene, but maybe they only had one of the two actors there, so they just did a camera that was like a view where it only showed the one as if they were talking to the other.
Yeah.
But that's very brief. And there were a couple of those times where like, all right, this is obviously something that was added after the fact. And there was one episode where it just felt a little forced, but overall, so much better.
Okay, man, I'll have to go take a look at that.
You really do.
I love that show. Sidetrack, the banana stand. Yeah. Love it. I love it. Okay, so Josh, last week I had Lisa and Lindsay on from the Garbage and Gold podcast. And we talked about the Kryptonite and the super serum, the horrible things and the great things. We talked about Kryptonite and super serum of movie remakes, streaming services, and Steven Spielberg movies. And so before I get to our Superfriends answers, I want to ask you, do you have a Kryptonite and a super serum of movie remakes?
Yeah, so first off, I really liked that episode. I thought the Garbage and Gold girls were excellent, and I am subscribing to their podcast. Like, I was really impressed. So after that high, then you get me next week. So kind of bottoms out real quick. Okay, yes, I do have some Kryptonite and super serums. First, I'm going to go with Spielberg movies.
Okay.
And you probably, you're not going to like it, but you probably know this. Kryptonite.
I hate you already.
Kryptonite is the garbage ones, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with Super Serum. Jurassic Park. Because Jurassic Park is amazing. You still watch it today, and it still is really impressive, that first moment where they get to the island and they see the dinosaurs and they all kind of pop out of the Jeep and their jaws just drop. I mean, it still looks really good.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So we've been watching that stupid YouTube video so much this week.
No kidding. I know. I've been watching it too. It's after listening to it on Married to the Games and them laughing about it, and I went back and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this was a thing. Anyway.
So that is my Super Serum by Kryptonite.
I hate you.
The worst movie ever made is E.T.
No!
That
You're wrong.
That garbage powdered donut alien. I still have no interest in ever seeing that movie again.
I like that you were traumatized by this as a child, which you were, because as a child you hated this, because you used to like cry, like, I don't want to watch that. He turns into a powdered donut.
So he when he gets sick and he turns all white, it just, I don't know, it's disgusting. I still can't. It still bugs me. I think you need to put aside your personal preference there of when he gets sick and like look at the movie as a whole. Nope.
I do not agree that movie is Kryptonite. That movie is freaking super serum.
What? But I mean, I go to the store and my kids love those little donuts, those little powdered ones, and I still think of E.T. and I'm like, I don't know.
Have your kids seen E.T.?
No, we don't own it. We're not watching that.
I need to have them over for a movie. You know what? I've got that big screen that I'm going to put up in the backyard and a projector. Maybe I'll have them over one night this summer to do a family movie night, and you can stay home. Steph can come.
Yeah, do it.
We'll do popcorn, and we'll all watch E.T., and then your kids will love it, and then they'll want to buy it, and so you'll have to watch it over and over and over again in the house, and we'll break you of your powdered donut weird fetish thing you got going on.
Not happening, but all right. Okay, let's jump to movie remakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Kryptonite first. And I really did not like the live action Jungle Book.
Okay.
Really hated it. And mainly because it just seemed so out of place to see animals, CGI'd and walking around talking. You put a Lion King or the original Jungle Book and you have it animated. I don't know why, but it doesn't bother me. But when it tries to look realistic and have them talking, there's just that disconnect. And it just totally ruined it for me. But some of these other live actions, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, those were fine because it just didn't seem out of the norm to see people walking around, talking, singing, whatever.
Yeah, is that maybe because more of the characters in that are humans versus all animals? Okay.
I mean, I guess Beauty and the Beast, you got some others there, but it just, Jungle Book for me was just really bizarre.
Talking clocks, talking teapots.
Yeah, I can handle a talking clock a lot more than I can some random jungle animal. But yeah, really did not like that. Struggled to sit through it, and actually we watched it here at home. We didn't watch it in the theater, and I found myself a lot of times just walking out of the room because I was just really bored with it.
Have you seen the preview for the new Lion King movie?
Yes, and I'm not really excited about it either.
Oh man, that looks so good. Okay.
So, and you know what? Here's the thing too. Like, I know it's supposed to be the same story and everything, but the preview almost looked like beat for beat the same as the animated movie.
Oh, it is.
I mean, it's like, why?
It is. It's shot for shot of the animated trailer for that movie. They intended it to be that.
Yeah, I don't like that. Same with, I mean, I know a lot of people like to bash on the Aladdin live action one. The original trailer I really didn't like, just like a lot of people did. Some of the others I thought were a little bit better, but I'm still kind of on the fence there, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the Lion King one.
What's your super serum of movie remix?
True Grit. And I did not see the original one whenever that was made. 50s, 60s, I have no idea.
The John Wayne version?
But this Matt Damon one was just excellent. I mean, I love that movie from beginning to end. And my understanding is it's still slow because it is a Western, but it was probably not as slow as the original. But that scene where the guy's hand gets blown off, I mean, it just, I don't know. It did it for me. I love that movie. I haven't seen it in a little while, but I want to go back and watch it because I love
that's a good one.
That one. Yeah, so True Grit.
I like that, Josh. That's a good one.
Okay, moving on to streaming. You're not going to like this one either, but let's start off with my Kryptonite first. I said NBA League Pass. I've only done the previews of the streaming service, and I haven't, to be honest, I haven't tried it in the last couple of years, but I tried it a couple of years ago and it was just total garbage. I like NBA League Pass on cable, but the streaming just wasn't nearly as as well put together. So that was my garbage one.
Yeah, I'm okay there.
My gold one, or I guess gold, my super serum you're not going to care for is CBS All Access.
Oh, no.
Because as a cord cutter, some of the shows that we watch are CBS shows. We every single year for the past number of years, we've been buying the iTunes Pass for Survivor. And so just a couple months back, we said, you know what? Instead of paying for that, let's just pay the, whatever it is, $6 a month for CBS All Access. We'll get Survivor on there, and we'll also get Big Bang Theory, which we... I'm kind of getting sick of Big Bang Theory, to be honest. It's kind of
I've fallen off that show.
But my wife really likes it, and I, you know, I've watched all of it previously, and with it being the last season, I'll finish it out. But so we watched that, and then also on top of that, you get the bonus perk of getting Star Trek. We're on season 1. We're behind, but we barely just got CBS All Access 2-3 months ago, and mainly for Survivor. But everything else is kind of just a perk. So.
Yes, yeah. I've got cable, so I get Survivor and any of the CBS shows if I want them.
No, we can watch it over the air, or we could do like the iTunes or whatever. But for us, it's just not very likely that we ever get to watch anything live anymore. And plus an hour block to be able to watch that uninterrupted at 7:00 at night just isn't likely. So,
and you also can watch it on like for a couple days after on their website, but you have to endure tons of ads, and they kind of spoil like what happens like when you go to the homepage. Right. So,
and we tried that a couple of years back, and some episodes, at least in the past, they would sometimes cut out like one of the challenges. They would make minor little cuts where you weren't getting the full thing. For most episodes you were, but it was always like 1 or 2 episodes a season they would cut out something, and that just kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was enticing you not to watch the free version.
In your scenario, I can understand how CBS All Access would be beneficial. $6 if you don't have CBS and you watch a bunch of CBS shows. For me, I've got CBS, so all I'm doing is paying for Star Trek Discovery.
Right. Now, I do agree that in your situation and just in general, I don't like the fact that it is behind a paywall. But where I'm not paying for cable, it's like, okay, whatever.
Right.
I'm willing to do it for, the 3 shows that we're watching on there.
Yeah, no, I get it. From your perspective, that makes sense. Let's go over to the Super Friends. We're going to start with our email like we always do. That's forwardofnerd@gmail.com. This is Peter Christensen. Says, Dear Nerds, Spence, you can never have enough Fast and Furious. I don't know, Peter.
I've only seen the first one.
Oh, I've seen maybe like 5 or 6.
Was like Tokyo Drift, like the third one, maybe?
Yeah,
was that the one with
Drift
Little Bow Wow?
Yeah, that's the low point in this series for sure. For sure. He goes on to say, the Pink Panther remake was one of the most painful movies I've ever watched. I don't know what they were going for, but they didn't get it. I don't think Ocean's 8 gets enough credit for being a good remake. It is very much in the spirit of George Clooney's Ocean's 11, with its own twists and turns and characters that are reminiscent but different enough. Kind of like how all the Kevin Feige MCU movies meet a bar for quality while being their own thing. Here are my Kryptonite / Super Serum picks, remakes. The Pink Panther remake was one of the most painful movies I've ever watched. I don't know what they were going for, but they didn't get it. On the other hand, the 2003 Italian Job is fantastic and holds up 15 years later.
Yeah, good call. Love the Italian Job.
Streaming services. Mega Kryptonite for paid streaming services that also shows ads. Perhaps we weren't clear on this business model. It's kind of stretching the definition of streaming service, but Audible for books is such an amazing service for this old fogey that prefers an ownership model versus access-based model. I agree, Peter. I love Audible. I use it every freaking month, and I've probably gotten through more books in the last 5 years than many years combined.
So did I hear that right? With Audible, you own the book?
Yeah.
Or no. Okay, that's cool.
Yep. You own the book. So like, even if you cancel or suspend your Audible membership, you still can log in and listen to anything you've previously purchased and download it to your phone or your tablet or whatever.
Nice.
He says, Spielberg, thumbs down to the Lost World at Jurassic Park. What a letdown after the original. People sleep on Minority Report or just remember it for being the hand-wavy computers, but that's a great, underrated sci-fi movie. Also, Spielberg's portrayal was great in the epic rap battles versus Alfred Hitchcock. Cheers, Peter Christensen. I do agree. I loved Minority Report. Minority Report, for me, always what's going to stand out in my memory the most is I remember going into it after seeing the preview. I'm 20 minutes or so into the movie thinking, I've seen everything that was in the previews. What's going to happen now?
Right.
And I love that because there was such a good film there and it wasn't all spoiled. Most of this stuff in the trailer was in the first, like literally maybe 20, 30 minutes of like a 2-hour sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but yeah, really good one. Good call.
But he is right. The little hand wavy stuff. I mean, we see that later on in some of the Iron Man movies, but that was like a decade-ish later.
Right.
So anyway, thank you, Peter. I love that. Great responses. We're going to go over to Facebook, which is facebook.com/FordofNerd. And we've got Caleb Albers. He says, Kryptonite. Fantastic. This is the Fantastic Four remake that just barely happened. He says, not a hard thing to figure out why. Because it was hot garbage. He says, DC streaming service. Cool idea, but not really worth the monthly cost unless you're wanting to get caught up on old shows like Wonder Woman or Batman the Animated Series. Which, Batman the Animated Series is pretty amazing. He says, The Adventures of Tintin. Didn't really like this movie as a whole. The animation was funky and the story had a hard time keeping my attention.
That's a remake?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
No, that's a Steven Spielberg movie.
Gotcha. I was like, sorry. I didn't know that was a remake.
So his Kryptonite for remakes was the Fantastic streaming service. Kryptonite was the DC streaming service, and Adventures of Tintin was Spielberg.
Okay.
His super serum, he says, I'm going with the magnificent 7 on this one. I appreciate the take on a classic Western and how the director wasn't afraid to put real stakes in this film.
That's a good movie. Good call.
Yep. He says, going to cheat with Netflix and Hulu. I only have those 2 services and I'm very happy with the shows I do get to watch. And although I'm usually a day behind because it's behind, it's fine because I don't have people to talk about these shows. So he says, as far as Steven Spielberg, The Goonies, because it should be a sin not to love this movie. Says, side note, I watch The Rookie every week and it's a fantastic show. Highly recommend. It's everything you want from Nathan Fillion that's not Firefly. Okay. And I haven't seen that show yet, but it's one I'm going to have to watch because I do love me some Nathan Fillion.
When you were talking about him last week and how he's rumored to be in the Uncharted movie, you did see that little...
the fan film
with him in it?
Yep. Okay. And I did love that. And I did probably watched that like 15-minute fan film probably like 10 times. Yeah. So, yeah, love it. I want Nathan Fillion as Nathan Drake. That's all the actual answers we have this week. So nothing over on Twitter, at Ford of Nerd, where you can reach us. We didn't get any voicemails at the old number, which is 801-477-7687.
Come on, Paul, you're dropping the ball here.
Yeah, no, come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Paul. Also, we're over on Instagram as well, Ford of Nerd on Instagram. So that's another place you can reach us if you choose. Let's see here. Josh.
Yo.
We, every week, we get a podcast out, and we always ask our super friends for help. How can they help us this week?
Well, this week, compared to other weeks, you can rate us on iTunes, preferably with a 5-star rating, not the typical 1-star ratings you're used to.
1-star ratings? Come on, Josh. The super friends don't do us like that.
April Fools.
Also, super friends, tell a friend. Word of mouth, man, has been building, and we're getting more Super Friends in each and every week, and that is amazing, and we love interacting with Super Friends, so tell a friend. Tell 2.
Tell a friend, and maybe Spence will bring back cookies. You never know.
Yeah, let's not tie me into the whole, like, bake stuff, because I'm staying away from sugar.
Or pork pizza?
Pork chop pizza.
Send it out on dry ice. That's possible.
Always a possibility.
There's
always
no
a possibility.
Limits.
So Josh, we You and I are basketball fans. I prefer to stay particularly with the pro game. I'm not a college fan. However,
Right.
I do acknowledge that we are in the throes of March Madness right now. It's a thing. People like that. Have you been following the tournament at all?
No. I too am a hardcore NBA guy. NCAA, the only reason I ever will watch it is mainly just highlights, and that is to look at draft prospects. I understand I'm in the minority there. There are a lot of people that really do like college basketball. But my short rant about it is I don't like the close 3-point line. It makes 3-pointers way too much of gimmies, and it also makes a defense not have to spread out as much. So I feel like the college game is just slower and not as much fun and excitement, where the NBA is a little more spread out. So you get more of a better one-on-one game. Plus, come on, zone defense, zone sucks. Let's be honest.
Yeah, zone sucks.
Yeah.
You got 4 kids. You know all about zone defense.
That's right.
Here's my thing. I'm with you as well. I also want to see the game at its highest level, where people are getting, I guess we'll say, above the table paid for their performance. I mean, we all know about some of the recruitment stuff that's going on in the college world, and kickbacks and
Right.
whatnot. But I thought, since you were on the podcast and we're both basketball fans, and it is March Madness, that we could talk about a bracket of sorts, an Elite 8, because that's where the tournament is right now, of video games. And I thought, Josh, it would be fun if we could say, let's take some matchups and we'll figure out the winner of each generation. Because if we were to put in old NES games in with current PS4 games, I think it would be an unfair advantage to newer games.
Right.
Because how, it's kind of like you and I talked about, how do you rate someone like Bill Russell against Michael Jordan? They played in different eras. There's different things, you have to consider and look at. And I know where I'm going to, I know you and I were from Chicago. It's going to be MJ all the way. You
should have said Jordan. You should have said Bill Russell versus basically anyone else. But yeah, you say Jordan, right. I'm picking Jordan every single time. But yeah, I get your point.
Right. I mean, that's the idea, right? So that's the thing is we'll break it down. So we'll do the NES generation, which was pretty much a generation unto itself. There was really no competitors there. Atari pretty much had gone the way of the dodo bird, and so it's just NES. We'll do the Super NES and the Sega Genesis kind of generation. We'll do the Nintendo 64 and the PS1 generation. We'll do the PS2, GameCube, Xbox generation, the PS3, Wii, 360 generation, and then our current generation, the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch.
Sounds good.
So we got an Elite 8 in each one. You and I, we can debate here, say which one we think is better than what, and just kind of go from there.
Yes. So I just want to say before we even really get started that I'm sure there are going to be people listening saying, "How could you not put such and such on here?" or whatever. There are some amazing games that either I've never played or you've never played, for one.
Right.
And then also, before we even started recording, there was some serious struggle on some of these ones.
Just to get to 8.
Just to get to 8. I mean, it was painful to leave some of these ones off. So say that as kind of our little caveat.
I also think another little caveat we should give is that we decided that we weren't going to go just based on our favorite games, what personally is our favorite from the generation, but what we actually feel are the best games of that generation.
Right. Yeah, and obviously, biases will come into play, but yeah, we'll try our best to say, this is a better game than the other.
Okay, so Josh, let's go to the NES generation. Give me a first, give me 2, and let's look at the first bracket. What do you got?
Okay, so for the first bracket, I think we'll just say the 1 seed here, and I'm not going to say all the seed numbers, but just kind of the 1 maybe versus the 8. I would say the 1 seed being Super Mario Brothers 3 versus the Cinderella of Excitebike.
Okay.
And while I love Excitebike and I love the fact that you could build your own tracks, which at the time was just, me and you spent so much time, deciding where to put the ramps, where to put the bumps, where to put the oil slicks. Excite Bike, great game, but I mean, come on, Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no comparison. I agree. I loved Excite Bike. I loved trying to design courses that were like brutally hard, and so you had to get like really creative. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're holding one button and you're just kind of, going around a track.
Yeah, Excite Bike was a game that I think everyone was really pleasantly surprised by. Mario Brothers 3 was a game that you were reading about in Nintendo Power, that you were lining up to purchase, that they made movies based after, all these type of things. So, and it lived up to it. Mario Brothers 3 is fantastic.
Yeah, I also think too that the NES generation did also have the advantage of it took a lot of games that were like big arcade games, and then they came to cartridge and home consoles. And so like Excite Bike was one of those. Like it was an arcade game originally.
Yeah.
So, okay. So in the next bracket, I'm going to put in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and DuckTales.
Ooh, yeah. This is tough. Gosh. I just barely replayed the remastered DuckTales with my son on Raising a Gamer. Still a lot of fun.
It's a great like platformer game. It really is.
Punch-Out's fantastic.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to have to give this one to Punch-Out.
It's hard. Even the Wii Punch-Out is a lot of fun. But yeah, Punch-Out, I got to go with Punch-Out. It's one of the best games on the NES.
I've never beat Mike Tyson without like knowing like the cheat codes to get right to him and whatnot. Like when we actually played the game back in the day on the NES, I never could beat Tyson.
So one of the things that the Wii one did, and this is another Raising a Gamer one, but one of the things that the Wii one did was it kept track of your record. And that's embarrassing because some of those final bosses, I mean, if you lost to them, you could just go right back on like the original Punch-Out. But I think there's one guy I lost to like 30 straight times. I mean,
really?
Brutally hard.
Yikes. All right, Josh, what do you got for me for your next bracket?
Okay, let's do The Legend of Zelda versus Mega Man 2.
Okay.
And I'll let you give your opinions on this one first.
No, you pick the bracket. You let me know what you got.
Okay. Well, I love Mega Man 2. I love any of the 3 original Mega Mans. Great games, but
yeah,
this really is. You might think Legend of Zelda by far, but Legend of Zelda is great. But the original Legend of Zelda, I don't think is anywhere near the best out of the Zelda series. I think it just kind of set that really great foundation. But I'm still going to have to go with Legend of Zelda, just by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
I'm going to agree with you there. Mega Man 2 was an amazing game. And in the Mega Man series as a whole, it probably was like the high watermark, as far as like setting up, future game run down the road. But Zelda, man, I mean, you get introduced to everything about the world. I mean, it literally was like the type of adventures that the creator of the game had growing up in Japan as a kid, and he poured that into that. I mean, besides, some weird like talking trees and stuff. But I mean, yeah, you gotta go. You gotta go Zelda. All right, so that's gonna leave our last bracket with Contra and Tetris. Now, I'm looking at this, and I love both of these games, but if I'm just looking at it, I'm going to say that Tetris was a game that, it was a puzzle game, it was fun, it was fast, it had great classical music, and it got our mother playing the NES. Mom was never going to touch Contra. The side-scrolling shoot 'em up, 2-player game, it wasn't going to be her style. So Tetris, I think, is a game that probably got a lot more families and a lot more people that weren't into gaming playing. But I mean, up, down, left, right, BA, start is always going to have a place in my heart. But I think you got to give it up to Tetris here.
Yeah, this one's really hard. But for me, Tetris also gets a nod and I'm surprised we've been basically in all agreement on this. Tetris gets a nod for me just solely on the fact that I've been playing Tetris still to this day. Tetris 99 came out on the Switch kind of out of nowhere, which is basically Tetris, like original Tetris, but as a battle royale. And I've poured like 20 hours into that game. It's simple, but yet just so much fun. So yeah, Tetris just ages so well. So I too, even though I love Contra, I got to go Tetris.
Okay. All right, we're at our final four. So in the first bracket, Super Mario Brothers 3 against Punch-Out.
Gosh.
For me, I think this is actually still pretty easy for me.
Are you going Mario 3?
It's Mario 3 all the way. It's Mario 3. Once again, Punch-Out's a great game, but if I'm putting the two together, Mario 3 brings so much more to the table as far as what you can do and what it is and story versus Punch-Out. Not that that's a knock against Punch-Out. I love Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but Mario 3 gets the nod once again, and that's actually kind of easy for me.
For the sake of time, I will agree with you because I'm really torn, and honestly, I could make a case for either one. But yeah, Mario 3 is great. Okay.
Legend of Zelda versus Tetris.
Tetris for me. I mean, I think Tetris is a game, like I said, I'll still play it, and yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think it's close for me, but I think Tetris is the better NES game there, which, gosh, that's a brutal one, though. That's close to me. Okay. Championship, Super Mario 3 versus Tetris. What do you think?
Personally, I'd say Tetris, but overall, I think it has to go to Mario 3. Just kind of like what you were saying earlier, more depth, and it was just so revolutionary. While Tetris might be one that more people would still be playing today, maybe, I don't know. But I think Mario 3 at the time just was, it kind of topped out what the NES could do.
Yeah, I agree. I think Super Mario 3 is the pinnacle of the NES generation. Mario did things in that game that he hadn't done in any of the previous iterations. It was still a fun, addictive platformer that you could you could beat it and you could go back and play it again and again and again. Warp whistles, was, something new that was added into it, and all the different outfits he could wear, which traditionally in the past, it was literally you could get the star and be invincible for a short time, or you could get the flower and you could spit fireballs, and that was it. Next thing you know, you got Raccoon Tail and Tanuki and the hammer suit. The ability to fly, sometimes permanently and sometimes temporarily. Right. Just so many things. Mario 3's the champ of the NES generation.
Right.
Okay. I think that actually was easier than some of these later ones are going to be. Okay. The SNES Sega generation. Josh, what do you have for us in the first bracket?
Okay, so in the first bracket, I think these two deserve to be pitted up against each other, and that is Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat. They're both fighting games. They're both excellent. And I'm saying the Mortal Kombat I'm going with is the Sega one, not the Super Nintendo, because of the blood.
Blood. Yep.
And
fatality.
Nowadays, I think I prefer Street Fighter over at least newer Street Fighters over newer Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat to me has almost gotten a little too gory. If that's it, it's just too much of the ripping out the spine thing and the blowing fire on the guy, whatever. That was cool back then. But now where it's let's saw off a guy's heart and then throw spears through his eyeballs, and it's just almost okay, you're just trying to be gory for the sake of being gory.
Right. Back in the day, it was still an amazing fighter, and it had the added element of it looked violent, even though by today's standards, it's so weak.
Right.
But at the time, there was parent groups that were super concerned about it. Yeah.
Right. But for this round, I'm going Mortal Kombat. I mowed the family lawn for a whole summer to get that game, and it did not disappoint.
Yep, I'm with you. Lots of time put onto that game, you and I. Mortal Kombat, yeah. Okay, so here's the next thing I've got, and this is, I think, going to be a tough one. Super Mario World versus Donkey Kong Country. Both amazing, amazing games on the SNES. Super Mario World literally was like it was like elevating what Super Mario 3 was to like the next kind of level. Yoshi was added in there and just, some of the really cool stuff. But Donkey Kong Country, literally took the character from the original freaking Donkey Kong game,
right,
and gave him a story and gave him something to do. This is a tough one, Josh. I don't know where I'm at on this one.
Honestly, for me, I've played both of these games recently, and for me, it's not so tough. I always felt like Donkey Kong Country was one of, if not the absolute best game on the SNES. That the art style, the controls, and it was super difficult. Whereas I felt like Super Mario World, while it was really good, if you go back and play it, the controls just feel a little loose and a little muddy, in my opinion.
Okay.
And it's Donkey Kong Country for me.
Donkey Kong Country. All right. Well, Donkey Kong Country, we'll move on to the final four. Okay. What's the next bracket?
Okay. Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm going to put him up against Final Fantasy VI, which I need your help on this one because I am not a Final Fantasy player. So, I love Sonic, but I don't know a whole lot about Final Fantasy VI. So I'm gonna revert to you.
So Final Fantasy VI, or as actually was called on the SNES, which they called it Final Fantasy III. We get into this whole thing where it was actually the sixth game in the Final Fantasy series that was released. However, in America, there had only been 2 previous games released. So not all the games from Japan got released over here at that time. Later on it did, and it happened. Final Fantasy VI was an amazing game because it was probably one of the most complete RPG games up to that time that had ever been released. Good gameplay, good story, the sprites and everything. It was really, really like revolutionary at the time. And so for me, I actually would probably say that would get the nod over Sonic the Hedgehog. I love Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's fun, but it literally is just kind of, in my mind, it's just kind of this, like, it's kind of a game on rails. You jumped a little bit and you could kind of stop it, but like the whole idea was just to like try to keep that speed going as fast as you can, and then your twitch responses to know when to jump to get him to do stuff.
Right.
It's a great game. It was a big game for Sega. It was a big, big, big seller for Sega. That's one of the reasons we got a Genesis back in the day. But I'm going to have to go Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, and I won't argue with that one. I think Sonic, as good of a game as it was, not knocking it, it might not have held up as well if it was a Super Nintendo game. I think a lot of the appeal was that it was a competitor to Mario on Sega. Good game.
Yep.
But I'll agree with you there. Okay. This one has me just in knots. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time, which literally I was just playing a couple days ago with my son, or NBA Jam. Both such good games. NBA Jam, the over the top, the he's on fire where the nets burn and you're jumping from half court doing, flips in midair as you're 30 feet above the rim, flying down for a dunk. It was just, these are both very arcadey games. And then you have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, which is just such a fun beat 'em up where you can actually take the ninjas as you're punching them at close range and throw them into the screen and they kind of like smack onto your screen. And just a beautiful looking game. So I'm really torn here. As much as it kills me to say this, I think I'm leaning at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 over NBA Jam. But this is tough.
See, it's interesting. I would go NBA Jam over TMNT 4. Only because I know I played Turtles 4, but I don't remember or recall a lot about it. But I definitely remember playing NBA Jam and knowing how big that game was And the fact that it not only was big on the home consoles, but it still was big in the arcades at the time too. Like,
I'll give you an example. So I said Andrew and I have been playing it for Raising the Gamer. My buddy Brett came over last Friday. He brought his Xbox One up. We were going to set up his Xbox One and my Xbox One, and we were going to play, I think, Ghost Recon Wildlands. We were going to co-op it. And what we did instead was we played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 on the Super Nintendo. And seriously had a blast. Like, I can't tell you the last time I played a Super Nintendo game, like recently, where I set it down and then I was like, I want to play a lot more of that. Like, I was actually thinking about it afterwards. So it's excellent.
Let's give the nod to Turtles 4.
Yeah, and it kills me because, like I said, I love basketball games. I have a ton of them. And
he's on fire.
Yeah, I love NBA Jam, but yeah.
Okay, so going back now to our final four of the SNES Sega. Mortal Kombat versus Donkey Kong Country.
You know, I think it's got to be Donkey Kong Country. Mortal Kombat's great, but Donkey Kong Country did so much for the Super Nintendo and really pushed the limits. I mean, it was one of those games that I remember playing it and just thinking, like, how can this be a Super Nintendo game? It looks so good. The sound is so good. Everything about it was just so well done. So for me, it's Donkey Kong.
Okay, so going over to our other bracket, Final Fantasy VI and TMNT 4. See, this is difficult because I don't remember a lot. I mean, I played Turtles 4, but I don't remember a lot. But I played Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy 3, and you're vice versa. You've played a bunch of TMNT 4, but never played Final Fantasy VI. I'm going to say that, like, I don't know that TMNT 4 really defined that game genre, whereas at the time, Final Fantasy VI/Final Fantasy 3, depending on US versus Japan, really was like the high watermark for RPG games at that time. And it by far was the best RPG game on the SNES.
Okay,
So I'm going to say Final Fantasy VI.
I can respect that. Yeah, it's hard to make an argument against a game that I haven't played, but I do know how big and how iconic the Final Fantasy series is. So yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay, so in our championship of the SNES Sega era, it's down to Donkey Kong Country and Final Fantasy VI. Now, I just laid out this beautiful case for why Final Fantasy VI is an amazing game. I still think Donkey Kong Country is the champion, though.
Yeah, to me, when I think back on the Super Nintendo, the game that I always think of is Donkey Kong Country. And, you know, when I started collecting retro games, when I started getting into Super Nintendo, which my collection is still kind of small there, but the first thing I was like, I gotta have Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where, like, I want to go get Tropical Freeze because it's kind of like the spiritual successor to that, and it's on Switch and it's HD.
Yeah, I don't have it on Switch. I have it on Wii U. It's still crazy hard. That was actually, side note, that was kind of the inspiration for Raising Gamers. Andrew and I played that together. We never made a Raising a Gamer video on it because it was before we had the channel, but we played it together and we had so much fun playing it together. We started thinking that we should do a channel where we played stuff together. So yeah. Great game. I if I find it cheap, I'll upgrade and get it on the Switch. But since I already have it on Wii U, I haven't gone back and got it. Haven't double.
All right, Josh. We're into the N64 PS1 era. This is where I think we may start having some problems coming to some agreements here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm gets
looking good.
Right
Okay.
now and I'm just sweating.
So many good games that are like literally okay, so what do you got for the first bracket?
Okay. So I don't like this. I'm going GoldenEye versus Tony Hawk. So GoldenEye is probably the FPS that everyone thinks of when they think of this era. You know, the one that I don't know if it introduced, but it was definitely the one that made 4-player split screen such a popular thing.
I believe it was the first 4-player split screen FPS game.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive of that.
I mean, it's the one that everyone had parties for. It brought everyone together. Yep. And then you have Tony Hawk, which was just so unexpected and so good and so much fun and still is a ton of fun. But I have to go GoldenEye.
Yeah, I got to go GoldenEye. I mean,
it really, really kills me to say it because I love the Tony Hawk series. And
I remember sitting around with you and buddies of ours, Steve and Matt, and like playing GoldenEye and saying, okay, no Moonraker lasers, slaps only. Like, we like had to like define the games. Like, you'd tell your buddies, hey, stop looking at my screen. Stop looking at my screen while you're trying to secretly like look at their screen.
I was just going to say GoldenEye was kind of the game that introduced the whole like screen cheating. And I mean, you saw it later on with like Halo, and you'd actually have people that would get cardboard boxes and like tape them to their TVs and all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah.
Okay. Gosh, this is hard. Like, I'm trying to find like things like make sense to pair them up, but Metal Gear Solid versus Tomb Raider. Ooh. I look at this and I go, so good, both of these games. Both of these games kicked off franchises that went, a long way down the road in terms of games. But if I'm looking at these two games and I'm comparing them back then, I'm going to have to say that I think Metal Gear Solid is better than Tomb Raider. I think Tomb Raider 2 was a better game. There were some further ones down the road and some other eras that were better. But back here at this time, I think Metal Gear Solid was the better game. It took that kind of stealth game and we brought it into 3D with all the polygons and...
Right. And
I don't know, Josh.
Are you on
board with that or different? Or
well, this is tough for me because some of my favorite genres, stealth for one, and then action adventure, which is both these games. And as good as Tomb Raider is, and as fun as it was to have the dual pistols and to be shooting, polar bears and wolves and all these animals that would just chase you and scare the crap out of you, and then be swimming underwater solving these puzzles. Inside the tombs. The thing that gives to me Metal Gear the nod is that Metal Gear really introduced somatic storytelling in video games. It just had over the top, very heavy in the story. And while it was wacky at times, it was kind of, to me, the first game that felt like you were watching a movie. So yeah, I'm going Metal Gear.
Yeah, I'm with you, the Metal Gear. Also, I felt like Metal Gear Solid Snake felt a little more realistic. I mean, Lara Croft, the way that she was designed at that time, I mean, not exactly proportionate to what a real human looks like necessarily.
No, it's almost embarrassing to go back and look at the pictures. I mean, it's very exaggerative.
Pretty rough. Okay, Josh, the next bracket, what do you have?
Okay, Resident Evil 2 and... I'm going to put it up against Final Fantasy VII. So this is a tough one. You got two heavy hitters on the PS1. And while I want to go Resident Evil 2, and while I remember playing that game and having the crap scared out of me, Final Fantasy VII is... a lot of people consider it the greatest game of all time.
Right.
So, and
which I do. For me, this is, I think if it had been bracketed up, because, we're kind of trying to do the 1 versus the 8, that sort of idea. I think if it had been bracketed against some of the others in the first round, it might have been a little harder, but Final Fantasy VII easily gets the nod here for me. Resident Evil 2, great game.
Yeah. And just, I typically have been a person that's really been against turn-based strategy games. And Octopath Traveler on the Switch is I've really been enjoying it. And so I'm kind of now thinking, okay, maybe I need to try another one. And Final Fantasy VII has kind of been one of the ones that I've really been thinking about. And they did just re-release it on the Switch. And I think it's been cleaned up a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say remastered, but I think they did clean it up. And I'm tempted to give it a go all these years later.
If you do, talk to me, because I love that game so much, and I will want to talk with you as you progress through, because, man, there's some story beats in that game that just, to this day, like, resonate, that it's just like, I know it's coming up, and I know it's going to happen, and I'm just like, no. Anyway. Okay, our last bracket. Gosh, geez. And the fact that these two are together, like, kills me.
Yep.
Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Both of these games are fan-freaking-tastic, and I think anyone could make an argument that these are some of the best games of their generation, which is what we're trying to do here. Oh man, I'm looking at this going, what do you do? Because this was the first time we had 3D Mario, and now he was jumping around and bouncing off walls and doing the ground and pound stomp, and it took that platformer to a different level entirely. But then at the same time, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, I mean, this is really when we went from like the 16-bit side-scroller or top-down, games to 3D. And so now you get like Link and Zelda in 3D, and it was like this open world game. It was about 40 hours of playthrough. There was side quests to do. Gosh, this is hard. If I'm going to have to choose though, just gut reaction, I'm going to choose Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, this one kills me. I mean, I'm sitting here at my table and I have a Super Mario 64 coaster, which my cup is sitting on right now. Right behind me. I mean, I know this isn't a video, but right behind me, I have my Zelda Ocarina of Time gold cartridge. I love both of these games. I mean, both of these games are two of my all-time favorites. And they both just really define both of these series. I mean, when you think of Mario, a lot of times you do think of Mario 64. When you think of Zelda, you think of Ocarina of Time. The music in both of these is fantastic. I have the soundtrack for Ocarina of Time, and that opening song, like, my goodness, I want that playing in the background at my funeral. Gosh, I want to say Ocarina of Time. Yeah, but
I know it's a tough first round matchup. It's rough.
I'm saying Ocarina of Time. Gosh,
okay.
It kills me.
All right. In the final four here, we've got, in the first bracket, GoldenEye versus Metal Gear Solid. Where are you at here on this one, Josh?
I think I'm going Metal Gear. Just once again, GoldenEye does have a story. I mean, it's based off the movie. GoldenEye was a great party game, great first-person shooter. I just feel that there's more depth to a stealth action game with a story than there is to GoldenEye.
Yep. I think while GoldenEye was a massively popular, successful game that really brought some new elements into the first-person shooter genre, I'm with you. Metal Gear Solid, I think, is the better of the two games. It hurts, but I agree with you. Okay, the other bracket, and this one's tough, but I mean, for me, I know what I want. Final Fantasy VII versus Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I mean, Final Fantasy VII was the RPG that literally brought the world together into RPGs, introduced RPGs to the Western world. It's got a fantastic story, probably one of the best ever in any video games. On top of that, some of the music and the system, and the ability, and gosh, the villain in this thing, Sephiroth, just for me, it's not close. Ocarina of Time's not like super far behind, but it's clearly Final Fantasy VII for me.
Okay, I'll agree, even though I'll probably be crying in my sleep about this one. And yeah.
All right, tough. So now we're at the championship: Metal Gear Solid versus Final Fantasy VII. Both on the PlayStation, by the way. Both PlayStation.
Yeah, I'm
games.
kind of surprised again. I still want to say Metal Gear, but I think that's more.
Yeah, I can't agree with you there.
I think that might be more of a bias. I mean, because Metal Gear was so good, and I mean, from the fact that you start off the game and it has like the opening credits, and it really did feel like a movie, and it really does a great job of, from the very beginning, sucking you in, and it has so many twists and turns throughout it. But yeah, that's my piece, but I don't think it's the winner out of the two.
Yeah, I think the winner is Final Fantasy VII. Now, I do want you to go play Final Fantasy VII, and I'd be curious to hear what you would, as a follow-up, like if you play the game and after you beat it, how you would feel, like, looking maybe back at this later.
Yeah, I'm serious with how much I've enjoyed Octopath. I'm really considering, like, I don't think I'll ever be like crazy into turn-based strategy games, but with how much hype there is around Final Fantasy VII, it's like if I enjoy Octopath, I probably should try that one.
Well, and also that game came out in 1997, so I mean, you're looking at quite an old game. But
true.
If you don't look at the graphics,
it's still. I mean, it's a shiny looking 16-bit type looking game, but it's it looks like an older game, just kind of with a HD shine over it.
Yep. All right, so Final Fantasy VII is the champion of the N64 PS1 era. All right, now we're getting into so tough. The PS2, GameCube, Xbox era. What do you have for the first bracket?
Okay, Halo Combat Evolved, and we're going back to Zelda, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. And this is a tough one from the get-go. I love Wind Waker. I love Zelda games, but I think it's got to be Halo. I mean, Halo was the game that saved Microsoft. It was their system seller. It was it was a launch title. That's what I love about this. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Wind Waker. It's absolutely like one of my like personal darlings of the Zelda series, and it was huge on the GameCube. But Halo Combat Evolved, like, literally, it gave me a reason in college to like make these LAN parties and hook up multiple Xboxes together and play freaking Capture the Flag night after night after night. I mean, I think Halo really was the reason why Xbox Live came to be.
Yeah, with Halo 2. Yep.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like, if you look at the other like console games that Microsoft launched with, nothing in there that was really like great. But Halo literally sold the system, sold the console, and it really gave Microsoft a chance to develop and become a real contender in the console world, which it still is today. If Halo wasn't there, man, it would have been a flash in the pan. It would have been like a Sega Dreamcast.
Yep.
One and done.
Yep. And I love Wind Waker. I love the cell shading. It was such a unique Zelda game. So I don't want to make this seem like it's a completely easy thing, but I think it's got to be Halo.
Okay. In the second bracket, and I feel like this is ridiculously nuts of me to even do, because I can make a case for both of these being amazing, amazing games at any given time. I'm going to put Kingdom Hearts up against Final Fantasy X.
Ooh.
Which is brutally, brutally hard for me. I've played both of these games multiple times. But if I'm looking at this, Final Fantasy X was superior graphics to any of the Final Fantasy games we'd seen. And really in the PS1 generation, Final Fantasy VII is the high water mark. But Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX were also really, really, really good / great games in their own respective games, right? They're these really good series. Each Final Fantasy game is its different story, like they're not continuations on. Final Fantasy X, better graphics, amazing music, amazing story, but it was the first time where we actually had voice acting in a Final Fantasy game. And that was a big, big deal. Now, that being said, and oh man, my personal love of that game and how amazing I think that game is. Kingdom Hearts, as I said, I'm replaying this game. It literally took this concept of we're going to take Final Fantasy characters and settings and we're going to cross them and merge them with Disney. At the time I heard that and I went, this sounds like the dumbest thing ever. This doesn't make any sense to me. But it is a wonderful, wonderful union that I fell in love with. You get to spend time in these Disney worlds that you've seen in the movies with this new character, Sora, and this amazing story. and it's a fun action game. So it is an RPG, but it's also an action RPG. So you're not just turn-based. There's great voice acting in this thing, cut scenes. I'm going to give it to Kingdom Hearts. And it's close. It's super close. And this kills me, but it's Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I agree. Kingdom Hearts was a game that when it came out, it was one of those things that you're like, this is weird. And then you play it and you're just sucked in. So, yeah, I don't have any qualms with that. All right, this next round,
that still hurts, though.
Yeah. We got Resident Evil 4 versus Metal Gear Solid 2. And as much as I just professed love for Metal Gear, and I do love Metal Gear Solid 2, Resident Evil 4 for me was such an amazing game. It originally came out on the GameCube, then later came out on PS2. I don't think it ever came out on Xbox. I don't think.
I don't think so.
But the stellar version was on the GameCube, and it had great storytelling. It was more of an action than on the horror side, but it still had those jump scares. I'll never forget some of these. There's a big boss in the beginning of the game, which he kind of just looks like this giant troll, and he's smashing. You're hiding in these little huts, and he's just smashing the crap out of them. There's another boss later in the game where you're out on a lake on this little rowboat, and it's this giant alligator type creature that just comes up and knocks you out of the boat, and you have to tap that A button as fast as you can as he's chasing you, about to eat you in this muddy, dark, dank lake. Resident Evil 4 is probably my personal favorite of this gen, but just such a fantastic game. And
I think Resident Evil 4 takes it as well.
Yeah.
I think it's the better of the two games.
Yeah, kills me. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you, though. All right, the last bracket. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic up against Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Now, I think you and I may be different on this one.
Yep.
But for me, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was the first time we got a Star Wars game that was kind of an action RPG. It was done by BioWare, and this was like BioWare in its early days, but man, they knocked it out of the park. It was the game, in my opinion, that made BioWare like a household name as far as like a game studio. It's about 4,000 years prior to any of the movies, so it has a completely different story that stands all its own. You get to become you start off as kind of a Jedi, but then as you progress, you can choose in your actions, choose whether or not you go to the light side or the dark side, so your choices have consequences. Great storytelling, great voice acting. I love the Splinter Cell games. I love the stealth games. I put so much time into that first Splinter Cell game, and then some of the subsequents. And Chaos Theory was the third in that series, and it definitely was a high watermark. For me, I have to go Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, though. It's a game that I literally go back to and play on my tablet because I can get it there now. And the fact that they may take this story and adapt it for a movie has got me giddy like a schoolboy. So I'm there. I know you're probably on the other side of this coin.
I think personally, for me, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory is a top 10 all time for me. Amazing game. And the Splinter Cell series, this might sound like a small thing, but one of the things that it did really well was the lights and the shadowing in that game that really gave you a sense of when you're hanging off a rafter or when you're hiding behind something of that you can't be seen, and yet just fantastic. It really pushed the Xbox, but trying to take my bias out of that, I'll go with Star Wars.
Wow. KOTOR for the win. Okay, so in the final four, we got Halo versus Kingdom Hearts. Oh my gosh. Like, just saying that we're putting those together hurts.
Right.
I know what I think is the better game.
Okay, I want you to go first then.
I personally, I want to say Kingdom Hearts just because of the depth and the the characters and the mixing and the melding of two different genres. However, Halo really made Microsoft a household name in the console world, and it was the game that literally was like the match that started the fire.
Right. Well, and I think Kingdom Hearts had the advantage of established characters from both.
Yes.
Both using Final Fantasy characters and Disney.
Established,
yep. Disney music, it had all these things already kind of lined up. Not saying that it was a surefire hit, but Halo was totally built from scratch. And I mean,
yep.
Everyone, when you hear that orchestra and you
yeah.
I think Halo, more so than any other game in that generation and a lot of previous generations, used sound and music in such a way that it set this, set the tone. Yeah, when you'd have the bum, you knew that, okay, you're going into a fight. You know, and
it's about to get real.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I hate about some of the later Halo games, is I don't feel like they use music and sound quite as well. But I still, get pumped when I hear that music.
Yeah. I'm going to have to say Halo. As much as it kills me because I love Kingdom Hearts, I do think Halo gets the nod. It's close. It's very, very close.
Right.
But I think Halo gets the nod. All right. In the other bracket, Resident Evil 4 versus Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This is, I know this is so tough. But you know what, Josh? If I'm being honest, I got to pull my personal love out of this here, and I'm going to say I think Resident Evil 4 is probably the winner here.
I think so. Once again, it's a very tough one, but Resident Evil 4 just it gave new life to the Resident Evil series. Not that it necessarily needed it, but it just took it in a new direction and was so well done. I mean, just it's one that you play from start to finish, just on edge, and it doesn't really, in my opinion, have any slow moments.
Yep. All right. In the championship for the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era, we got Halo versus Resident Evil. I think for me, it's Halo Combat Evolved.
Yeah, I think so too. Like we said before, Halo was a game that kept Microsoft and Xbox afloat, and it's a game that, people still talk about, people still love. It's got to be Halo.
Yep, I agree. All right, now we're into the PS3, Wii, 360 era. What's your first bracket?
Okay, yeah, and these don't get any easier. I think they just harder and harder. Okay, for the first bracket, we got BioShock Infinite against Skyrim. I mean, this two amazing games. I admittedly had never played Skyrim until it came out on the Switch and absolutely loved it. I mean, it's a game that you can sink 100 hours into easily, and I know so many people that have sank thousands of hours that still play it over and over and over. However, for me, BioShock Infinite, the story in that game, the ending, I still won't spoil it in case anyone plans to go back, but that was literally a game that it ended and my jaw was on the floor, and then I immediately went to YouTube and was watching all these commentary videos for hours. I mean, still probably the best ending in a video game ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, the storytelling in BioShock Infinite is absolutely out of this world, and the fact that I had the same experience that you did, like when the game was over, I was like, what? Wait a minute, what? And I was like, what? Wait, what? And I had to go to YouTube to watch a video that literally was 45 minutes of explaining what it all meant and how it all fit together. That stuck with me. That matter of fact, that was the game that Brita had listened to Ken Levine, the director of that game, on a podcast. He was being interviewed, and she was just hearing about the game. She'd never seen a trailer for it. She just heard him talking about it on a podcast, and she came home and says, "Hey, we need to go buy this game. I want to watch you play this game. And we played BioShock Infinite and loved that.
Yeah.
So
to me, it was a similar reaction finishing that game the same way I felt when I finished watching Sixth Sense. It was just one of those twists that just like, wait, whoa, just so well done.
Yep. All right. In the second bracket matchup, I'm going to go with The Walking Dead versus Batman Arkham City. And I'm man, I look at this and because, like I said, none of these get easy. Walking Dead is this great game. I mean, obviously it's built off of the Walking Dead show and kind of that whole idea. It's a little bit of slower of a game, but it introduced us to some amazing characters, and once again the idea of like your choices make an impact on kind of what happens, and you can kind of see how your choices affect the game versus how others choose. Such a big and captured the imagination. I mean, it made Telltale Games a big name. But Batman Arkham City, I mean, the ability to control Batman and to go around Gotham and Arkham and do all the things that Batman can do. I hate this, but I think it's Batman.
Yeah, I think so too. And the thing that was so good about Batman is it's not the first time that they've ever made a comic book into a video game, but it was probably one of the first times that it was really done well. Batman Arkham City was one of the first games that I really wanted to get the DLC for, and that I, snatched it right up and played every last ounce out of that game that I could. The boss fights were so iconic. Still a great game. Yeah, Batman Arkham City for sure.
Nice. All right, Josh, what do you got in the next bracket?
Okay. Uncharted 2 versus Super Mario Galaxy.
Wow, that's how you paired those up, huh?
Yep.
That's not a pairing that I would have chosen.
Two of my favorites. Very different games. Mario Galaxy is honestly, for me, right up there with Mario 64 as my favorite platformer of all time. And then you have Uncharted 2, which, took a good base model of that first game and just made it so much better. And once again, going back to the storytelling, I mean, that was literally a game, that really did feel like a movie.
That is like Naughty Dog at some of its finest right there. I mean,
Right.
It drops you right in on the action, the story, and you're like, what is going on? And then it all kind of unfolds and comes together. Man, I love Super Mario Galaxy. That game is so much fun, and it really did kind of, use the Wii controllers, and it really was kind of exploring a new way to play games.
It was one of the games that actually made motion controls feel good. It didn't overdo it. There's simple controls, but yet it felt intuitive. I still think it's got to be Uncharted 2, but this is splitting hairs. I mean, yeah,
it's close. Here's where I came down on this. If I'm gonna pick up one of those two games today, I can go play Uncharted 2 on a PS4 now with like the Nathan Drake collection, the remaster, and I can play it with a current gen, and it still looks amazing, and I can use a current controller. If I wanted to go back and play Super Mario Galaxy, I've now got to go back and get a Wii and use the motion controllers for that. Like, I can't play that, as far as I know right now, like on the Switch. Like, it hasn't been remastered and
if you had a Wii U, you could play it on that too. But yeah, you'd still need the Wiimotes.
Yeah.
Tough.
Okay. That's a tight. That's why I was like, don't put those together because that's too tough for a first rounder.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's gonna leave us with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare and Red Dead Redemption. So this is I'm gonna have to take this from you because I've not played either of those two games.
This might be the toughest matchup, in my opinion, because
Just wait till the current generation.
I love Red Dead. The Western setting, everything about that game, the music, it just pulls you in. And it just creates this world that you just want to be in and don't want to leave. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare redefined shooters. It had such iconic moments where one of the things that it did well is, I mean, every shooter, you're gonna take your gun and you're just gonna unload so many bullets, but it did that well. But then it also had so many moments where you're sneaking through the bushes as a guy's leading you and he's telling you, "Oh, stop! Here comes a patrol," and you're sitting in your couch and you feel like you're holding your breath as you see these groups go by. And it's hard to do it justice over a podcast, but it really did storytelling well in a first-person shooter. That said, I have to go Red Dead just because of the world that it created that you just didn't want to leave.
Okay. I will take your pick there because, like I said, I hadn't played either of those games. Okay, so in the final four here, BioShock Infinite versus Batman Arkham City.
It's tough. I think you have to go Infinite.
I think you have to go Infinite as well. I really do. Okay, moving over to the other one then. Uncharted 2 or Red Dead Redemption? So I haven't played Red Dead Redemption, so my vote is Uncharted 2. I mean, it's Naughty Dog at some of its finest. So that's where I'm at, but you've played both, so like, where do you fall on this?
It is so hard. I think for me, I love both games and both series. But for me, I might think Red Dead is a game that I'd rather play again. I've played both of them multiple times, but I think I'm going to have to go with Uncharted 2.
Tough one for you there?
Yeah.
All right, in the championship of the PS3, Wii, Xbox 360 era, BioShock Infinite versus Uncharted 2. I've played both of these games. This sucks. I don't want to choose. Oh, gosh. Because both of them, here's the thing, both of them have amazing storytelling.
Right.
I mean, both of them have amazing storytelling here. So I'm going to have to say, based on gameplay and storytelling, I think Uncharted 2 for me is the winner.
Yeah.
It's close. It's super close. But I mean...
Well, here's the way I thought about it. I love BioShock Infinite. I want to go back and replay it. I've played it through once. I've played Uncharted 2, I think 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I really do want to go back and replay BioShock Infinite. But yeah, I think it's got to be Uncharted 2 because of the storytelling.
Yep. Naughty Dog. Oh. All right. The PS4, Xbox One, Switch generation. This is our current generation. Now, we got some really heavy hitters and some hard choices here. What do you have in the first bracket?
Okay, first bracket, I got Overwatch versus Super Mario Odyssey. Two very different games. Overwatch is, one of those games that just sticks around and, has a huge fan base. I do enjoy it. But it's not one that I have put crazy amount of hours to. It's one of those that I'll pick up and I'll play it for a weekend, set it down, pick it up, a month or two later. It's really good to play with friends. And that's where I think it's got its longevity. It's introduced the whole Overwatch League, which is becoming a big growing thing. And then you got Mario Odyssey, which is a great Mario game. I think you liked it more than I did. I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my favorite Mario. So,
I completed Super Mario Odyssey. Like, I think there's technically like this super secret thing I still have to finish on that. But I mean, I did everything in that game. So I loved it as far as like a platformer and a Mario game on the Switch. But I think you're right with Overwatch. I mean, Overwatch is a game you can pick up and play with buddies. Like, I personally don't like playing it if I'm by myself, but if I'm playing with friends, I really enjoy it. And we've got a whole Overwatch league that is now like esports is becoming like really mainstream in big part due to Overwatch.
Right.
I think you got to give it to Overwatch here.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. In the next bracket. Oh gosh, this just kills me. Okay. Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man versus The Last of Us. Now, admittedly, The Last of Us came out on the PS3, like at the very, very, very tail end of the generation, but it was remastered for the PS4, and I think it shines on the PS4 much better than the PS3. I'm loving Spider-Man. It's an amazing game, and I'm playing it. But I mean, The Last of Us, the game feels great. It plays great. The controls are like some of the best controls for that I've played in a game. But this is not. I mean, this is the high water mark for Naughty Dog and storytelling. I'm gonna have to go The Last of Us here.
Yeah, this one's easy for me with picking The Last of Us. It's a top 3 game of mine, and depending on the day, top 2, maybe even top of all time. I love Marvel Spider-Man. I'm not a trophy hunter. I 100% of that game and loved every minute of it. But The Last of Us is just a game that leaves such an impression on you. And when I went back and replayed it, it didn't lose any luster. It's intense when it needs to be intense. The dialogue, the story of Ellie and Joel and their relationship is so well done. The music is such a masterpiece. For me, it's got to be The Last of Us.
Yep, I'm with you. Okay, Josh, the next bracket. Gosh, this doesn't get easy.
No, it doesn't. God of War and Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 is an amazing game. I mean, all the Uncharteds are great games. God of War, won a lot of Game of the Year awards, and once again another kind of. I think in a lot of ways it takes that Last of Us style where it's pairing up two people, it's father and son, and telling their story mixed in with a lot of action. It's one that I personally need to go back to because I don't know. I was really enjoying it, but I wasn't loving it at the time, and I just got bogged down with some other games. But I think it still has to go to God of War on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Uncharted 4. I mean, I think that's an amazing Uncharted game, and the pirate setting is just amazing, and the brother dynamic is great. But I mean, God of War, that father-son relationship, I mean, it just, as a father of two boys, like, it just hits me in the feels at times. And I'll put it to this way. I played through the game. Halfway through the game, Brita kind of walked in and was watching a little bit and kind of looking and saying, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then she sat down and watched me play the second half of the game. She made me go back and restart a new game plus and start the game over again so she could get caught up on the entire story. And my wife's not a big gamer, and if it drew her in like that, it's great storytelling. So I got to give it up to God of War as well. All right. So Red Dead Redemption 2 versus Zelda Breath of the Wild.
I got to give some background here. I just said Last of Us is in my top 3. You know what the other two are? Breath of the Wild.
Zelda Breath of the Wild and Red Dead Redemption 2.
No freaking joke. I just finished Red Dead 2 recently. And once again, like I already said, I love Red Dead, and this is a prequel story, which when I first heard about it, that it was going to kind of back up and tell the story of the Vanderlyn gang, I had my hesitations because I love the main character in Red Dead. And when he wasn't going to be the main character in Red Dead 2, but yet this guy Arthur Morgan was going to be, I was like, I don't know. But Rockstar Games, I gotta give it to them. They do such an amazing job of creating an environment that just sucks you in. Then you have Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which, I mean, it's Breath of the Wild.
I put over 120 plus hours into that game. I completed everything in that game.
Yeah. I'm right up there with you too. And it's a game that you can still pick back up. And the thing that Zelda Breath of the Wild does so well is their physics engine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still seeing YouTube videos of people doing these wild and crazy things that I would have never imagined, you know, different ways that you would hit a block and send it flying into the sky and kind of use it as a catapult. And they thought of everything with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And while personally Red Dead is my all-time favorite game, I think you have to go Breath of the Wild.
Wow, that surprised me because I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2 yet. I didn't play the first one. I want to kind of play this one now. Like I've kind of changed my mind some on it, but I've got some other stuff I'm playing through. So I was going to let you completely make this choice because I would have just said Zelda because I've played it. I thought you were going to go the other way though. Okay,
I mean,
Breath of the Wild.
I'm trying to take out my personal. Once again, you're taking my number 1 game versus my number 2 game of all time.
Yeah.
It's hard. But I think Breath of the Wild just has a little more in the way of depth to it.
Yep. Okay. Final 4 here. Overwatch versus The Last of Us.
The Last of Us.
For me, this is The Last of Us. Yeah, it's not even a competition. Okay, so then God of War versus Breath of the Wild. I have played both of these games. It's tough because Breath of the Wild now is definitely the older of the 2 games I've played. I've played God of War more recently. I only played Breath of the Wild once. However, I did put over 120 hours into the game. I have now played through God of War twice, and I actually got the audiobook version of the game.
Oh, geez.
Because I want to re-listen to the story and all the Viking kind of Nordic lore that's in this thing. Oh, man. The controls in God of War are amazing. It feels really good. They found a way to take a character and from a setting in a previous game series and put him in a completely different setting, yet make it work. The father and son element, Cory Barlog, what he did with that game is just amazing. I'm going to go God of War. I love Breath of the Wild. I love that game. My wife and my kids watch me play a ton of that. But I think God of War in this generation is the better of those 2 games.
Ooh, see, I disagree. To me, it's not even much of a debate. To me, it's Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I think one of the things that Breath of the Wild does so well is storytelling without necessarily having tons of dialogue. Like the world tells the story in Breath of the Wild, and it gives you just a different perspective on Zelda. Not Zelda the franchise, but Zelda the character. So to me, it's Breath of the Wild all day, every day. But
all right, so this is what we're gonna have to do because I love Breath of the Wild, but I can't get there. I think God of War is better. So we're gonna flip a coin, and I've got a little coin here, a little baggie here. So you call it heads or tails. And if it's heads and you call whatever you call, if it's what you call, you get to choose. If it's the other one, I get to. So call it.
Tails.
It's tails.
Breath of the Wild.
Ah, gosh, I hate that. But I will abide by my own rules. Breath of the Wild. Okay. Breath of the Wild versus The Last of Us. For me, it has to be The Last of Us. I've played that game 3 times through. It is, I think, some of the best storytelling in all of video games. It actually is my favorite video game of all time. It's just a masterpiece through and through. So that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah, and once again, kind of a common theme is, I think, is the storytelling, and the storytelling in The Last of Us is, I don't know if there's a game, in my opinion, that has a better overall story than The Last of Us. So as much as I love Breath of the Wild, and I do feel a little bit cheap putting The Last of Us in this era, but I think it's got to be The Last of Us.
Yep. All right. I actually thought we were going to go to coin flipping a lot more than we did. I really thought we were going to go to coin flipping. And I think a couple of the matchups we got lucky because some other games we think are amazing didn't get matched up with some.
Right.
As we got a little deeper, we got some real hard choices in the first round. So in the SNES era, our champion through, rigorous Elite 8 March Madness style brackets is Super Mario Bros. 3. In the SNES Sega Genesis era, it is Donkey Kong Country as our champion. In the N64 PS1 era, it is Final Fantasy VII as the champion. In the Xbox, PS2, GameCube, it is Halo Combat Evolved. In the PS3, Wii, 360, it is Uncharted 2. And in the current generation PS4, Xbox One, Switch, we went with The Last of Us Remastered. That's where we got to. Now, looking back real quickly, Josh, do you have any problems saying that you think any of those 5 games are the best of their generation?
I'm still sticking with it. My only problem is you could make an argument for The Last of Us being PS3.
PS3.
But we're in a generation where everything is remastered, and with it being at the tail end of the PS3 and then coming in so early with the PS4, I mean, I look at other PS4 games and there's still not one that I think is better than it. So by that means I'd still be okay with it.
Yep. Well, Super Friends, here's the deal. You've now heard our Elite 8 getting down to a championship. We want to hear from you. So you can tell us what you think of our picks, but I actually want to hear from you. What is your champion of each of those 5 generations? Let us know. We'll read those answers next week. So I want to hear your SNES, or your NES, your SNES Sega, your PS1, N64, the PS2, GameCube, Xbox, the PS3, Wii, 360, and the PS4, Xbox One, Switch generations. Just one champion for each generation. It is freaking difficult. Josh and I had a hard time even getting our list together tonight and then trying to pare it down from 8 to 1. Some tough choices. Anyway, so I want to hear from you. Hit us at all the normal places. The email, the Twitter, the Facebook, the voicemail, the Instagram, wherever you got it. Josh, where can the Super Friends find you out there on the internet? What are you doing? Where can they get to you?
You can find me on our YouTube channel, Raising a Gamer, and you can also find me on Twitter. I use the handle MTTG Street Team.
Well, Josh, thank you once again for coming back on. It's always a lot of fun to be able to do this.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. It was good.
Well, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, remember, may the Force be with you. Always.